Take a look around lively old London, buzzing crowds, we sweat and we revel, red-cheeked shouts and songs in the flicker of the gaslight. Eager blighty bursts from the cobblestones, racing, climbing, blooming fertility, born from secret seeds that are scattered in the night time. London is fed upon the meat of the dead. They're one shallow inch below the town. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Them that whispered dreams that only poisoned us, them that told us lies of their bravery, them that preached of progress and put us in the poorhouse. Them done horrid murder on bloody stages, them that loudly crowed their humility, lords and dames that sung in the chapels on a Sunday. All quiet now, their mouths are stopped up by mud. They lie flung in rags and make no sound. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Those who fought for something better, those who taught by how they lived, loved ones taken long before their work was done. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Underground, underground, leave them underground. Underground, underground, leave them underground.
Yeah, I like that song. Get on my level. Deal with it. I do it. I play it a lot, I will admit. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talk Gaming. This time, we're coming to you live. I'm glad to see everyone here who's in the chat. I'm trying to get the live chat to work and show up on screen, but long story short, last week, for those of you who did not get to hang out with us, there were some technical issues where like XSplit wasn't working properly, and it was just a big mess. So this time around, I just reinstalled everything, and so far it's working, except for the live chat viewer. It's not working out properly. So maybe what I can do is I can add something in a minute. But for now, I guess you'll just have to deal with me. What we're gonna well, first of all, before I get into everything, I want to say hello. Hi, welcome to everybody. We have a few things to talk about today. It's probably not going to be a crazy long show. There's not a ton of news. The main thing that I want to talk about is Fallout 76, because there was an event that happened where Bethesda invited a bunch of YouTubers out to play the game for 3 hours in West Virginia, where the game is set at an actual location that's in the game. And I was not one of the people that was invited. But nonetheless, I do know some people who were there, who got to play it for 3 hours. I've gotten to speak with them. And then they also put out a ton of content, because most of them are YouTubers, as you would expect. So they also put out a ton of stuff. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at it and kind of break it down, because it's starting to fulfill a lot of the predictions that were made back at E3. There's a couple other things we could try to discuss, but we probably won't tackle in full force, like Red Dead. Everyone's pumped for Red Dead. We all know it. I could try to talk about it, but it wouldn't do a lot of good. Plus, Rockstar tends to tear down anything that I do on that video or on that game, so there's not a huge incentive to cover the game as much as I'd like to. Don't worry, Banana Brains. We're just starting. Don't worry. So there's a few things to talk about, and as always, of course, as we go through this, we're going to talk about whatever you guys bring up. If there's other topics that I missed or just have not brought up yet, we can refer to those and talk about them. Because this is meant to be more of an interactive show than just like a straight me talking and ranting for an hour or however long we go. This is meant to be a little bit more interactive, a little bit more going back and forth, a chance for us to have a conversation about these topics. Because as much as it's hard to believe, I don't like listening to myself for an hour nonstop. So any conversations that we can build, I'm always ecstatic to hear. So we'll tackle that. And as always, if you want to listen to the show later or on the go, you can always download it off of SoundCloud, or you can jump over to iTunes and listen to it through iTunes as well. Links to everything down below in the description. We're no longer on Podbean. That was primarily a financial issue, but as for right now, we got SoundCloud, we got iTunes, Double Trouble, everyone's happy, so check it out there if you want. But with all of that said, let's just jump right into it. So the first thing, of course, to discuss is that Fallout 76 was shown off. This is footage from GameSpot's time with the game, so I want to thank them for that. And it's kind of exactly what we expect, and then also not, because at the same time, how this game was pitched, and this is what's important to remember, is that it is the multiplayer mode from Fallout 4. Bethesda, for the last decade, has made an online version of each game, whether it's Skyrim, whether it's like Fallout 3 or Fallout 4. They've always made online versions of the game, but they've never gone through with it and actually used it because it just doesn't work. That's what this is. And they said that very transparently at E3, that this game is the multiplayer version that they just decided to release, which is why it looks so much like Fallout 4, why it feels so much like Fallout 4, and why a lot of people, if they're just looking at this, and if you aren't a member of the team or if the UI is turned off, it will look and seem to be Fallout 4, just with a couple mod skins or something like that, with a slightly different UI. That's really it. All of the other stuff, all the combat, most of the weaponry, a lot of the cosmetic stuff, all the assets, the building components, all of that is the same. And with that being said, a lot of us expected, okay, well, if all of that's the same, it's been 3 years since Fallout 4 launched. So what have they been working on? Was it all really just online stuff and then world building? If that's the case, then I hope that we're going to have a lot of stuff to explore, a lot of really cool twists and things that they've been able to put all that time into. But alas, it doesn't seem to be the case. And part of it is, first of all, that Bethesda is not an online developer. They acquired a couple of studios that, what's now Bethesda Game Studios Austin, which previously was Battlecry, I believe. I didn't play the game, so I don't know the exact name, but I believe it's Battlecry. And so they acquired them, and then they started working on the game for them and did a lot of the networking code stuff, which, it seems to have worked out pretty well. It's not easy to completely alter your game engine to work like that, but it seems to have worked. There are stories that people were having lag and frame drops, and you might see that a couple of times as we go through the footage that you'll watch on screen if you're watching this on YouTube. So you might run into that. They said that this was an older build, so that potentially might be fixed by the time we get a finished release. But let's be real, all multiplayer game launches tend to be really rocky, really iffy, and have a lot of issues, especially if you've never, ever done this before. So it's intriguing at the very least. But for 3 years, evidently, they've been working on this. And what we get is an online Fallout 4. It sounds stupid to boil it down to that, but that's what it is. It's an online Fallout 4 without characters, without NPCs. Everything is done throughout the game, through terminals, through robots, through notes that are left behind through all of that stuff. And so it's interesting, but that's really all we have going for it. It's here's the thing. That was a very conscious design choice by Todd Howard early on when they were trying to tackle the idea of doing an online game like this. They said, okay, we don't want any non-player characters in the world. So the only time you'll see a human being in the game is when it's an actual human being, which, okay, that's cool. Why? Just go Socratic method. Why are you doing that? Well, we want it to be special, like you're the lone wanderer, so you're going through this world all alone, and when you find somebody, it's an exciting moment, just like it would be in real life if you were going through this wasteland. Okay, so are we going for realism? Well, no. There's going to be giant moths and super mutants and all of these mythical and mystical creatures from West Virginia. Okay, so then why is it important that we make that one piece lifelike and realistic? I don't really understand that, but nonetheless, okay, it's interesting to remove all those people, and plus it also simplifies the budget. It makes it much easier to work. It's just okay, but that choice follows through and has many implications that I don't think are necessarily positive, such as the sense such as the feeling that the game is remarkably lonely and doesn't really have a lot to do and to motivate the player. Because in Fallout 4, I had a lot of issues with Fallout 4. I think it's one of the most disappointing games I've ever played, just utterly underwhelming. But at the very least, the characters that ask you to perform certain actions had reasons to ask you to perform those certain actions most of the time. And they gave you a reason to perform those actions. And so when you went out and you wanted to help a group of settlers that needed your help, at least you knew that you were going to help people that needed help. And as poorly done as that was, it still made you have a reason to go and do it. In this, there's nothing like that. You go to a terminal, there are literally hunting terminals. So there's the Big Game 9000 or whatever they call this stupid terminal. You go to this computer, you hit a couple buttons, you interact with it, and then it spits out hunt 3 mogwais or morgwai, whatever they're called. You, hunt one of the giant moths, hunt 10 ghouls. That's their idea of side content or main content, because this game doesn't really have main content as far as anyone can tell. Which is a whole nother issue, because for most people who are fans of the Fallout series, it's supposed to be an open world RPG with heavy world exploration. But at its core, all of those actions are still motivated, and you still have a reason to go and pursue those actions. In this, there's no hook. There's nothing that's telling you, yeah, you're doing this because you're trying to unravel this story of how all of this happened. There's no hook. And at the very least, if there were some big twist to it, it would make sense that, okay, we're doing this, we're exploring this, and there's no people around us except for real people. There's very, very few people because X, because Y. And that's why you're searching through the map. But instead, it's just there. And that's kind of what bugs me about it. And I really just don't appreciate that. I think it was a major design flaw and a bad choice. It's admirable that they made a choice like this that has as many consequences as it does to remove all players except for people, but this is just not what it should have been. If I were designing the game, I would probably go through, I would still have NPCs in it, because I think at the end of the day, the people you're trying to sell your game to need reasons to play. And at its core, there's not many people that play games just for the sake of playing the game. The people that play those games, they make a lot of money because they tend to be very young audiences, and they tend to devote themselves wholeheartedly to certain games for certain reasons. A perfect example being Fortnite. Why are people playing Fortnite? Well, because it's fun, because their friends are playing it. It's a social thing. They tapped into that, magic, that lightning bolt, and then they're making a butt ton of money off of it. But not every company can have a Fortnite. Not every company can have a Grand Theft Auto Online. Not every company can have an Overwatch. And when you try to do that, yeah, it might work out great, and it might turn into the next Fortnite, but it might also end up completely imploding and pissing off your core fan base, which is what this is, I think, going to do. Yeah, they might sell some copies to some more of the casual crowd, but... And yeah, I know everyone freaks out when you see the casual name applied to things, but it is kind of the case. I do know people who consider themselves openly to be a casual gamer. They don't play a lot of games, but when they play a game, they play one game, they play it for a long time, and that's all they do. That's all they tackle. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I do not begrudge anybody for that. But it's important to recognize that the core fans, the ones that are very vocal and that will make or break like the reviews and a lot of the online perception of this game, are not going to be pleased by this. And that's what you've seen. So for instance, for those of you who are not aware, there's a YouTuber named Mr. Matty Plays, and his channel is completely dedicated, less so now, but previously has been completely dedicated to Bethesda content. So Bethesda Game Studios, and then he branched out and he started getting into like Doom and the other stuff they were publishing, that the Softworks was publishing. And he's a super sweet guy. You should go subscribe to him. He's wonderful. He's a doll. But he got to play this game for 3 hours, and he was one of the individuals who very frontwardly said, this is a game that is Fallout 4 reskinned and barely reskinned and multiplayer geared, and it's designed to be a multiplayer game. So if you are looking to play this game by yourself, you're just not going to like it. It's just not going to be super fun because it's designed from the ground up to be a multiplayer Fallout. That's it. You know, you can love it or hate it. That's just what it is. So if you go into it with that understanding, then at the very least you can have a reasonable experience or just avoid it entirely. For me, I know that I'm just not this type of player. I'm not the type of player who wants to just go and play these games for the sake of playing these games. I can't play Destiny just for the sake of playing Destiny. I don't understand the desire to play Fortnite just for playing Fortnite. Like, I don't get it. I've never got it. Maybe one day it'll click and I'll have a lot more fun because people seem to have fun with games like Fortnite and Destiny and soon to be Anthem and those types. I just don't get it. As a player, at least for me, I need to be motivated to perform certain actions, and this is not a game that's going to do that. It just isn't. Like, it's just not. It's heartbreaking. You know, I wish it were, but it just isn't the case. So what we've seen is after Matty came out and he talked about this and he showed off his gameplay and very astutely, and I got to hand it to him. He was very honest and blunt, even to his fans, which can be kind of sycophantic and crazy about Bethesda. He said, you know, this is just not great. It's not going to work if you're not crazy into multiplayer. And so a lot of people have been canceling their pre-orders. It's something that you thankfully can do, but a lot of people have been backing out. A lot of people have been saying, you know what, this just isn't for me. This isn't going to be a good fit. And that's kind of the point of YouTubers in general. That's kind of the point of what we do. The entire idea is that if they give early access to somebody that has an audience, and then that individual tells their audience, hey, this is going to be good for this group and bad for this group, take it or leave it. I'm glad to see that people are heeding those words of wisdom. You know, and to be perfectly honest, I guess it's time that I share my opinion of Fallout 76. To be perfectly honest, I think this is a game that will likely be pretty good and fun to play in like 6 months after it launches. Like, that's kind of the case a lot of the time with Bethesda games, is that they're really glitchy and buggy at launch, and then it takes like 6 months to get it polished to the point where it's playable for most people. And then after that, you go through and you can really start to play the game the way that you were meant to. But with Fallout 76, it's a whole nother level because there's the online component, which just complicates things. And especially considering this is a company that's never done an online game before at all. And so it's inevitably going to be a bit of a train wreck. And I wish them the best of luck because, once again, I would love this to be incredible. It's not like I want this to fail. I want to have another awesome Fallout game to play. I just don't think that this is it. From everything I've seen, I haven't seen it to be the case. And, you know, if I get a couple of buddies who want to play through these games and want to go through Fallout 76 together, like, yeah, I'd love that. I just don't think this is going to be the game that does it. It's heartbreaking, but I just don't think it is. And more than anything, I'm a little baffled because, once again, they've had 3 years. 3 years is a very, very long time. Like, that should be enough time to really polish something up, to really do something impressive. And yeah, they've got a big map, but I have yet to see what has taken that long, which more than anything draws me to the conclusion that they haven't really actively been working on this with like the full team for 3 years. This is a side project, kind of similar to Elder Scrolls Online. And I think after Fallout 4, they've finished the DLC, and they've all pretty much been working on Starfield and a much smaller group on Elder Scrolls 6. And that's what they're putting all of their effort into, because that's what they would actually need the time and effort to do. And as they said, that this was basically developed alongside, or at least the systems were developed alongside Fallout 4, and then they just decided to publish it. And it's impressive, the world that they've built. It's very large, very cool, but this is not necessarily a it's not crazy difficult for a larger studio to throw something like this together. It just isn't, especially when you've got a large team of a few hundred people, and you've got like 6 months to just build, like, world build. People are doing this for 8 hours a day. Yeah, you're going to get something this big, especially if all of the tools and all the assets have already been made and designed for a game you already released. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And more than anything, like TJ in the chat is saying, I think that this is just kind of frustrating, because for those of us who are actual Fallout fans of the older games, this is just frustrating because they've lost their identity. They really have. Like, they just don't know what Fallout is supposed to be. And more than anything, they have rights to it. They get to do with it what they want. So, who am I to say they don't understand Fallout? But they don't understand the Fallout that most of us tend to want, at least the like single player RPG focused side of the fan groups. And because they don't understand it, they have doubled down, and they're starting to actively pursue a side and a version of the game and the Fallout universe that I just am not interested in. I wish I were. I don't understand it. I don't think it's appealing. I don't think it's fun. It's just not there. And like, this is going to be fun and lighthearted, but I wouldn't pay $60 for this. If they were doing it as like a DLC, somebody mentioned that in the chat earlier. If we were doing this as like a DLC to Fallout 4, I would have so much more respect for them. And if they charge like $30 for it, and then it's like a big alternative game mode that you download and can play through, I would have so much respect for them. That'd be so cool. But instead, they feel like they have to do this. I just don't understand it. It's just not there for me, and I don't think it will be. If I have friends to play it, yeah, we'll play through it, but I don't want to pay $60 for it. I can get it with like Gamers Club Unlocked, or like the GameStop like advanced, whatever they call it, the advanced membership or whatever, Pro Elite, Pro 3 Extreme, whatever their membership is called, which saves you 20% on the game. That's probably the only way I'd buy this, is if I could get it for like 48. But to buy it like on Steam for a full 60, no, that would hurt my soul too badly. But I'm optimistic. I want them to do well. I just don't think they will. I just don't think it's there. And I hope that this is just another sign that they've put all of their eggs and all of this work into Starfield, and so when we eventually get Starfield, it will knock our socks off. And like they've said many times, they've said, and they've tried to tell us, that it's going to be remarkable, it's going to be amazing, and the game is crazy. I just hope that it's not this kind of crazy, because this kind of crazy is just depressing and sad and frustrating. But maybe they mean fun crazy, which hopefully is the case. Hopefully is the case. Random statement, I do really like the hit marker look in Fallout 76. Yeah, that's funny. That is very random. You act like you can buy it on Steam. Oh yeah, they're doing it through Bethesda Net. Yeah, see, I forgot about even that. They're very quickly starting to try to turn into their own version of like a Blizzard or a Ubisoft to a certain extent, which, you know, could be exciting for some, but could be really frustrating. Yeah, spent all this time building a world with no friendly NPCs or cities. Yeah, that's why I think, like, Fallout, yes, it's about a world that's very solitary, depressing, and lonely. But there's still people in that world that make that world worth saving. And when the only people you're encountering are griefers and other players that are just trying to kick butt and take names, that's just a different kind of game. It just is. Like, it's not the same thing. And I think that's where the misunderstanding comes, and the importance of NPCs really is. Part of the reason some people love New Vegas so much is because the people in that world motivate you to save it. They're weird, they're quirky, they're individualistic, but they're real. And they're like, you have a reason to pursue what you're doing. You have a reason to try to save the world. And here you just don't. You just don't. And that's why it's frustrating. Yeah. The FPS drops, as you see. That's what it is. Waffles in. He's an obsidian. Now it makes sense. Yeah. No, I as I've said many times, I'm an RPG, and like I like narratives that drive gameplay, and I not necessarily the other way around. And I think Obsidian did a very good job with it, and I think Bethesda time and again has dropped the ball. I don't think that's a controversial statement, and I stand by it. So with all that said, like, this looks pretty. I'll give them that. That looks pretty on the screen. They're showing, like, I don't know what this building was called. I missed what it was titled, but it's very pretty. They've done some good artwork, but I don't know. As for more specific things, they've really taken it to heart to try to avoid griefing, to try to avoid a lot of the disappointment and frustrations that come with multiplayer games. Like, for instance, there's something in games called instanced areas or instanced items, things like that. Basically what it means is, like, if you come across a chest that has a bunch of loot in it, you know, when you're playing a multiplayer game and you, like, one person comes and they raid it and empty it, and then the next person comes over and it's empty because you emptied it, that's an instanced item. Like, there's one instance of it, that's it. In Fallout 76, all of the loot containers, including, like, dead bodies and all of that, all of those are or rather it's the opposite way around. I flipped it. I'm sorry. Instanced are ones that are instant, like, specific to you. Non-instanced items are the opposite. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, basically what it means is that when you go and kill a giant creature, you go up to that creature, you're going to get loot, and then the person next to you that's on your team can also loot it for similar or the same stuff, depending on what it is. Sometimes it's going to be variable, sometimes it's going to be static and specific. So that the idea was that was going to boost it and encourage more exploration, so that people don't get frustrated that, okay, I'm going and looting stuff with friends, but Tim keeps stealing all the nice stuff and he leaves all of the ammo and crap for us, so it just sucks. And they've apparently actively tried to reduce load screens as much as possible so that you don't have to sit in like a loading lobby while the game loads to pop you in. They want it to make sure that you feel as though you're constantly at danger, you're constantly in the world, which is kind of cool. I will say, though, the interior of this building does not look great. It does not look great. That's unfortunate. There's also a little player assassination mini game that you can launch. This is taken off of the GameStop. I'll just read what they wrote about it because they do a good job explaining it. What they say, quote, PvP isn't just limited to random encounters. There's also a game in the Pip-Boy called Hunter/Hunted, which Jeff Gardner told him about, calling it a, quote, really cool game of assassination, end quote. Basically, you can tune into, like, a radio station wherever you are on the map, and basically you become a target if you opt in. You become an assassination target and you get to assassinate someone else, so it's that round-robin sort of game of assassination, and it adds a lot of tension to your game. Holy crap, what the hell is going on with this wallpaper? Look at that. Okay, look at the scream, and you'll just start vomiting. I can't even pronounce it. It's so gross. That was shocking. Who in the hell was allowed to skin that. I am baffled right now. I didn't see this before we went live. This building is shockingly ugly. That's stunning. That is stunning. That's horrifying. But anyway, this I don't even know where to what to say. I am honestly baffled. Yeah, there's popping in the back. This does not look good. I'm trying to be optimistic, but holy mother of pearl. That's shocking. That's a whole nother level of terrible. Wow. I'm honestly shocked. That was probably one of the worst interiors I've seen, short of like that free horror game I downloaded a long time ago. That had pretty bad texturing, but it was free and one dude made it. That, wow. They'd better fix that. That was horrendous. Anyway, so they have this mini game in your Pip-Boy where you can opt in to become an assassination target. It's kind of like, oh, I'm opting in so that people start hunting me, and if I escape, then I win. If I kill my target first, then I win. But I might also get hunted, so there's kind of a bounty that gets placed on you, which is kind of cool. It's an interesting little twist, but once again, as a player, like me personally, I need a reason that makes sense in the game. There is no reason it makes sense in the game. It's literally just there. And that's about it. There's no real point. Also, are we really going to believe that the grass has been maintained to this point after like 100 years of nuclear bombs falling? I mean, I guess the animatronics are still here, so they could be doing some of that. But still, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I need a reason that it makes sense. I need a reason that this has been justified. I need a reason. There's just nothing there. Mothman, at the very least, there's like, it's radiation. Stuff happens, but that's about it. Here they talk about the player launched nukes, which was a big thing that they talked about at E3. Basically, they say in the article, quote, I get it. Nukes are powerful. I mean, they're called weapons of mass destruction, and the devastation they can cause is pretty much the premise of Fallout. Even so, I was pretty impressed with the sheer power of the nukes players can fire off in Fallout 76. It really is the sort of thing games wouldn't normally let players wield. There's a dramatic whine as the bomb falls from the sky, then the trees soar through the air like leaves in the wake of an explosion, which sends up a towering mushroom cloud. That sure is a nuke, all right. I happened to be playing when we watched a nuke drop, so naturally I immediately ran headlong into the fallout and died of exposure. I didn't get to see much. Turns out you need more than one diluted dose of Radaway and some Rad-X to survive a nuke, but I did get to preview the effect nukes have on the environment. Everything in the blast radius was deader than hell, and the air was thick with amber smog. I look forward to getting some proper radiation gear and investigating the aftermath more thoroughly. Which is intriguing. But we also have not heard specifically how that's structured and how that works. Like how many hours into the game you have to be before you get your first nuke or before you can go at it. Once you achieve and get access to your first nuke, does that whole sequence and segment start over? Or like, do you have to go and explore for another 20 hours in order to get another series of nuke codes? Or is it just like another 5 minutes or 5 hours of grinding? It's really not clear. No one really knows. It's just not great. And I think they said if your settlements are nuked, then they pack them up in the little case and then you can redo them, like plop it down and everything gets rebuilt pretty much instantly so that you can't just get griefed by a bunch of strangers. This is just the heartbreaking thing. And this is, I think, the point of all of this. But Fallout 76 got kind of assaulted, hence the title of the video, when all of this was revealed. Because for most people, this isn't Fallout. It just isn't. And to see that this is where the company that makes and has rights to the game is taking it is a little frustrating. Because, not just a little, it's very frustrating. We'll just be completely honest. Like, it's just frustrating. They don't know how to make these games, hence all of the frame drops. They don't know what they're doing. And this is the complete wrong direction of where it should be going. And it shows that Bethesda is out of touch, and it shows that they don't understand their audience, or at the very least, they're going for a separate audience than the one that has made them what they are. You know, the RPG fan base made Bethesda, and now they're going and saying, yeah, we get that, but there's a lot more money to be made with the other groups. And so it's frustrating because it kind of feels like they forgot where they came from and what was important. So in a way, I kind of hope that it tanks a little bit and that they get humbled and they understand why people were frustrated and they honestly learn. I thought after Fallout 4 they would learn. I thought they would have seen all of the kickback from that, but it turns out Fallout 4 was like their top selling game of all time. So, or fastest selling game rather. So it just doesn't seem to be quite the same thing. I wish that they would learn, and I wish that we would get it back, but I don't think the Bethesda of a decade ago exists. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think the Bethesda of a decade ago, even to begin with, was particularly great. I think this was always where they were going. They've never taken these things seriously. I think Skyrim was kind of stumble into success. And I mean, I hope to be proved wrong. I hope that Fallout 76 is incredible. I hope that there's a ton that just baffles me, but I just don't see it. And I think if there were some big hook, something that was going to justify this game to everybody, we would have already heard it. There's no reason that they would hold back something that would justify the game to everybody. So, yeah. It's frustrating, is it not? It's frustrating. Lunacide says, what was missing? Passion and ambition. Yeah. I think they're passionate about money. I think that's where they're focused. And I think they've forgotten that they used to make games because they were making the games they wanted to play. And now they're making the games that are going to make them the most money. And that's really sad. It really is sad. Because the moment that an artist loses the ability to do what they want to do, in exchange for the pursuit of monetary gain, that's really sad and really unfortunate. Banana Brains, how much are you looking forward to RDR2? Very, very muchly so. Very much. I've been ready for a while. I'm thoroughly excited, and that game is right up my alley. I think they're going to nail it. I'd like to do a critique of that too, or like something on that, but it's, like I said, damn tough because they don't make it easy. I wish Chris Avalon was head writer for Bethesda, says TJ Hedge Scout. Yeah, no, I think that'd be great, but I don't think they would ever do that because they have Emil Pagliarulo, who I think it's just a difference in philosophy. If you listen to these guys interviewed, so for instance, when I did an essay a while back where I said Fallout 76 could be successful or like might not suck. It could potentially not be awful if they do a few things that are very, very important, if they do them just right. Now, the closer we get to launch, I see that they haven't done those things and that I was being overly optimistic. But when I was preparing for that video essay, I watched a ton of interviews with Emil Pagliarulo, who's the head writer over at Bethesda, and also with like Todd Howard and everybody on their team. And when you listen to these interviews, it's very clear they just have a different philosophy than they used to, and also than most of these open world RPG developers do. You listen to the interviews from CD Projekt Red developers, they're always saying, we will always focus on the player first. We'll always focus on delivering a single player experience that's grounded and that's believable and interesting, and that's our goal. And then you listen to Emil Pagliarulo talk, and he basically says, well, you know, we'd like to do that, but like what we're focused on is what's going to be the most fun, what's going to be the most crazy and just off the wall. And that's how he defines it. If like, go listen to these interviews, challenge me, don't take my word for it, go listen to these interviews. And it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre because it's not what Fallout is supposed to be about. Fallout, it's supposed to be fun, yes, but it's also supposed to be grounded. There's supposed to be a world to explore that needs your help, and then you help save that world. But in this case, it's just not there. They're focused on what is going to be pure escapist fun, and that's it. They try their best, but you know, what are you going to do? And this is the other thing that you're seeing on screen. So with regards to griefing, one of the big concerns was that if you were going through the world and the only other people in the world were going to be other players, that you potentially could just end up with people hanging out around the vault. Right as you walk out at level like 1 or 2, you get assaulted by all these guys, and then it just kind of collapses from there. But they've made it so you can't like engage in a firefight unless you want to. So you can't just get sniped from the back of the head unless you've consented in a way. So if you engage another player as they're engaging you, then you can take damage. If you sign up for like that assassination game like we were talking about, then you can be attacked and get damage dealt. Things like that. So they have taken those steps, which kind of makes sense, and I'll give them credit for that. I think that makes that works. Film Lover, are you or have you gotten Black Ops 4? I have not. It's not crazy appealing to me. If like one of my roommates gets it and we play multiplayer games, then maybe. But yeah. Let's see. Yeah. But no, they've gone and taken a lot of steps to try to fix these things. So griefing, not a major concern. They've fixed a lot of that, taken the necessary precautions, and it's an interesting balance you have to strike, where you balance like the fun of a new player coming in, and then also the intriguing world exploration, and then also the desire to have every player have the right to go through and play the way they want to play. So if you want to play just the guy that's wreaking havoc, you can do that. It's tough to balance all of that because you want to make sure it's not just griefing for the sake of griefing, but you want to make sure they have the ability to go and do stuff like that if they want to. But then you also want to make sure that players who don't want to be griefed or don't want to engage in that have the option and the ability to do that. So I think they've done a good job with that. I think it's just at its core, it's an online Fallout 4. If that sounds awesome, you'll probably love it. If that doesn't sound awesome, you probably will hate it. Let's see. Eric says, Luke, have you actually done research in Fallout 76? Like everyone knows, you can't get whacked out of the entrance at any level under level 5. That's what I just said, yes. Perhaps listen. Perhaps give that a try. It might work for you. Yeah, I'm like that looked cool. I'll give it to him. But yeah, no, I think with a lot of this, I'm intrigued to see how the time frame works out, because choosing to launch on November 14th was very specific. One of the big concerns was that like Red Dead Redemption, which launches on the 26th of October, was potentially going to overlap. They've got a couple weeks, like what, 2.5 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks of head start. I don't think that will cause a lot of issue. I think most people who are like online players are going to be going with Fallout 76. Like the single player crowd is going to go with Red Dead first, and then the only potential thing is when Red Dead chooses to launch their online player multiplayer, because they've said that it was going to launch roughly a month after. If there is an exact date on that launch, let me know in the chat. I haven't seen it yet, but I did hear that they were going to delay the online launch by a month or more. And so if they launch pretty close to Fallout 76, or at the very least announce that, hey, yeah, Fallout 76 launches on November 14th, but on the 21st or December 1st or whatever, sometime close to that, we're going to launch Red Dead Online. You better believe you're going to get a ton of people putting off Fallout 76 so that they go and go for Red Dead's Online. One of the big things, you cannot underestimate the power of Rockstar. They are the kings of this, especially after Grand Theft Auto Online. They have so much say in this. They carry so many of the cards close to their chest. They have so much weight. You just cannot underestimate them. And so if they say, yeah, no, our online is going to launch within even a month of this other games, you will see sales start to drop. You will see pre-orders canceled. You will see play times drop. You'll see players drop out. It's going to happen. I think Fallout 76's key to success is going to be in waiting and focusing on the long-term content. Like I said, I think probably 6 months after launch, the game is going to be driving a hard bargain, especially if they get competitive with the pricing. And then they are going to really double down and nail it if they have some really intriguing events, some cool, like, extra monsters and things that you can fight, things like that. Long-term content, that's where this game is going to be made or broken. And I hope they nail it, because probably like December, once school gets out, yeah, no, I could see myself putting, 20 hours, 30 hours into this just to try it out. But especially in the month where we're going to be getting like Red Dead and then Red Dead Online, at least for me and a lot of people I've spoken to, it's going to side closer to Red Dead. Because Rockstar is basically God. Let's be real. Yeah, John Gunn says, this will be the first Fallout game I've skipped, but I'm definitely skipping it. Red Dead Redemption, 12 days. Dude, is it really 12 days? My body is ready. Tony, Luke, you're in school right now? Yeah, dude, I'm I'm studying corporate finance, preparing to go into law school after that. So super fun. Yes. There's not a whole lot of sleep to be had. Cypher Ice, yeah, Fallout 76 is a game that seems like it'll be good game later. I wouldn't play it now because I feel like it will feel like an early access experience. That's kind of true of all of these online games. It always starts out that way, and then it's tough to build into it. Which is why I hope that they really nail it. I hope that I have a reason to play it. It's just not there right now. I'm going into my senior year, so it's like late junior year. It's kind of weird because I have taken a lot of like CLEP tests, so I have a lot of credits I have that I didn't take a class for. It's weird, but I probably am graduating next fall. Is basically how it's going to work out. Let's see. I saw a comment I wanted to respond to, but I missed it. I lost it. Are you forgetting that Fallout 76 launches the same week that Red Dead Online launches? Well, I was asking, I guess I can Google it. When does Red Dead Online's online launch? Like exactly. I can't type. When does Red Dead Redemption Online come out? Because if it's close, they're going to maul. Yeah, they've said November. They've said November. If there's a specific week, that's kind of crazy. That's monstrous. That's baller. In that case, yeah, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. That's risky. You got to be risky. But you better believe that's going to have an impact. Mark my words, that will have an impact. Yeah, no, I didn't know that. That's good. That's good. So yeah, no, there's going to be a lot of people that are upset at potential criticizing of a game like this. There's a lot of I don't want to say fanboys, because there are people that are passionate about a game that they want to play and that they want to have fun with, and that they're excited about. And that's great. I'm glad that you have a game that you're excited about. I just don't think that this game is a game that I'm personally excited for, and that's fine. We can like different things, but inevitably there will be many people who get upset that you disagree, or that you like games that they don't like, or that you don't like games that they like. It's just going to happen. We kind of are in a I don't want to say an immature, but a very hot button industry. It's just going to happen. And, they're counting down. If you're not watching the screen, watch the screen, because they're about to launch the nuke. It's about to go off. Basically, everybody gets to go up. You wear little party hats, and then you get to watch the bomb fall, which is kind of cool. They just totally embrace it. And there's the nuke. It falls. Boom. That's kind of fun. Leaves flying everywhere. Big explosion. Start to see the mushroom cloud. And it's going up. Yeah, that looks pretty. That looks pretty. Jump over, and then naturally you start running towards it. It's like, did you guys ever see those the videos of the people when they were first testing like all of the hydrogen bombs and stuff? They had no idea what it was doing or what effect it would have, but they would like have these soldiers that just would like they'd be under a bunker, and then the bomb would blow up and the huge mushroom cloud goes over. It's like in Nevada, I think, and the like first wave of pressure hits and it knocks all their hats off, and then they're forced to get up and run towards the explosion and the bomb because they wanted to see what effect it would have on people. I guarantee you every single one of those people is dead now. Like, not just because it was a long time ago, but they probably all had horrific cancers and all that. This basically reminds me of that. Like, bomb falls, you just run right into it. Once again, thank you GameStop for the footage. They nailed it. So it's hopefully awesome. I just don't think it's good. I just don't think it's going to be there. But I am, as always, interested in hearing your thoughts, your opinions down in the comment section below or in the chat. Sorry we couldn't get the live chat to pop up on screen. It's probably a good thing. We had some stupid people pop in who are what I would classify as fanboys that were frustrated that people were criticizing it. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But thank you for tuning out, everybody, or tuning in. Maybe you were tuning out. Either way, I don't really care. But I'm glad we got to hang out, and I'm glad we got to have fun together. I got a video coming this week, trying to throw it together. We're about to go into tech and opening performances for Frankenstein at the Lincoln Center here in Colorado, which I'm in the show, if you're not aware. So that's going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully that all pulls through and I'll have enough time to finish up the video I've been working on. Hope that you enjoy it. Thank you all for coming out. I love you all. Check out the merch store if you haven't already. Check out the iTunes, SoundCloud links I've put down below. The Discord if you haven't. It's a cool place to hang out. Follow me on Twitter at LukeStevensTV. As always, I love each and every single one of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for hanging out. Bye-bye.